Welcome to Musical Intelligence. This is the video I promised about the really weird and rare BC Rich Conti jazz guitar. So the picture I'm showing you right now through my desktop is my guitar that I have at this moment that I will be playing later on in the video. So at this moment I'll just go through a little bit of the history, the differences between the first iteration of the Conti and the second one, and also talking a little bit about the stories or story behind it pertaining to the feud between Mr. Robert Conti and Mr. Bernie Rico and BC Rich Company. So this guitar is known as a Conti Brown Burst. I've been talking to the luthier who's been maintaining this guitar for the last 20 years. I bought this guitar from the second owner who rescued it from the first owner from sheer neglect. So there is a pickguard. The pickguard's got the Gauss emanation problem, so it's sealed in a Ziploc bag. The rest of the guitar is original. The knobs have been replaced. Other than that, it's all there. It's an ebony fretboard, an ebony bridge, thick metal R-shaped tailpiece. Me and the luthier both agree this is probably built like a 335, meaning the top and the back are plywood layers that are steam formed or what he calls punched in. So it's not per se a solid carved top. And considering these were made in Japan, that make a lot of sense because BC Rich at the time was outsourcing its production to NJ series to Nagoya, Japan, because they had a really hard time meeting demands for their products. They were so popular in the early 80s. There's no serial number on this thing. I'll show it to you later on. It's really hard. You have to go by the color, the inlays, and the heel to date those, to try to date those. So the story behind this, according to two different sources, one of them being the Evil Guitars, who had one of those for sale on Reverb a few years ago, and says that he had a bunch of them, and I've contacted him about it, but he can't help me out any more than what is put into his jazz box description and website item description. And the other story comes from, let me get back to that, Mercury was Tune Your Sound, BC Rich County. Tune Your Sound, BC Rich County, which is the C.C. DeVille Poison. C.C. DeVille, as in the 80s guitar players, was Poison, who's now with the band Twisted Sister. So according to these two stories, Bernie Rico was trying to be nice and to pay homage to Robert Conti because he valued him as a guitar player and thought he was a great artist. So he made the jazz box, either blue or brown burst like the one I showed you, mine, with Robert Conti's last name on the inlay. So the blue one, this one that's owned by C.C. DeVille, allegedly owned by him, it's got the E at the end, just like mine. Story goes, and if I failed to put the links with this YouTube video, you can always pause the video and find them here. Although it's as easy as typing Tune Your Sound BC Rich Conti. And same for this one. It should be the first set of images you find, and you'll be able to read the story. I don't want to waste your time, but we're talking 1981 here, just about. So story goes by that Mr. Conti found out that BC Rich was using his last name to promote their jazz box, and supposedly, according to BC Rich employees or high cadre, high white-collar workers, like accountants and founders or anything of those second floor types, that Mr. Conti was threatening to sue BC Rich if they kept using his last name without his permission. And story goes that later models of the BC Rich Conti were changed to have an E at the end, which you can see on this different version of it. Instead of the I, like you have on mine, you have an E at the end. And the other change, obviously, the bridge is different. Tailpiece is really different. And you have a square heel, which the first generation had a really slick, smooth access, fast access heel joint. And you'll see it on mine, but since mine is brown, you probably won't see it as good. On the blue one by Mr. DeVille, you can clearly see it. Yeah, and down that picture a second. Here we go. So here's the high access heel where you can reach the upper frets, and it does work. And when I'll show my own guitar on the video, I'll try to show it to you, but again, mine's brown, so it might not be as easy to picture as this one. So when that went down, the part I don't understand of the story is that they made BC Rich an 8-string guitar for Mr. Conti later on. So I'm assuming that somehow they managed to work things out. Again, I'll strongly invite you to read the story on Tune Your Sound and on the Evil Guitar site. There's a lot of discrepancies between those two stories. So I won't go over them. I'll let you figure that part out. I'll try to concentrate more on the guitar itself. So on the guitar itself, let me put it back up front. Again, I'll play it. I'll show it to you live. I want to do this first part with pictures that I took so I can talk over the specifications of the guitar and so on. So this looks like mother of pearl inlays. Could be acrylic. I can't guarantee it, but it's an inlay. It's not an inked or a painted logo. The NJ series is classic to all the BC Riches that were made in Nagoya, Japan, and J meaning Nagoya, Japan series. And you see on the trusted cover Bernardo Rico. So if I go through these pictures, ebony bridge, big R as in Rico or rich tailpiece, binding, bound F holes, original pickups. I lifted the pickup, I looked on the back of it, there's no markings, there's no inks, no patent number, it's just a plain steel plate or metal plate with screws through it. So there's no way to identify what those pickups are. Ebony board, cloud inlays just like the Supremes. And what else can we say? Knobs were changed. Normally it came with really thick brass knobs, fully metal brass knobs. And that no poker chips on the pickup selector. These cracks are finish only. The funny thing is that I talked to the luthier who maintained this guitar for 20 years, and those are finished cracks. He put the camera, the fiber optic camera, through it to look in the inside of it. There's no cracks. There are no cracks through the plywood. But he said the way those cracks lifted is because there might have been some contaminants in the factory when they painted the guitar, and the contaminant might be reacting to the oxygen in the air that seeps through the crack, giving that slightly upwards lift in the crack. But he's fairly convinced that this would be a nitro finish. It just so happens that the preparation under the nitro finish got contaminated, explaining why that crack is kind of lifting a little bit like a point of a volcano. And you see on this picture here the access I was talking about. So then the knob, the strap button is right on the end there. So this is really smooth. This is really slick. It's really comfortable. You can easily get access to that. Funny thing too, when I took pictures of the inside of it, the flaming, the grain pattern, the aesthetics of the inside wood differs from what you see on the back and the front of it, which leads me to believe that it is constructed like a 335, meaning several layers of really thin plywood made in a sandwich to give it strength, and it probably was easier to manufacture this way than doing a solid top that would have been carved. No serial number whatsoever, no sticker inside the F-holes. Really interesting. It's really hard to date. You have to go by the inlay and the heel access. Otherwise, you have no shot whatsoever trying to find out when this was made. And if it wasn't for those those websites, it'd be a crapshoot. So here's a headstock. Normally on a typical BC Rich, like my Mockingbird that I showed in the previous video, you have a serial number here. There's nothing to this sort. Logo tuners, really good tuners, really tight, good quality. And the whole guitar is prime quality, really. I had in the past a Fender D'Acquisto guitar, the same Japanese, made in Japan Fender, famous in the 80s, which I think was in 85 or in 86, which was an outstanding guitar. And it's the same level of quality. It's a really, really killer. Great fret access. Neck is a little narrow, but for me, for my small hands, it's perfect. All electronics work on it, which you'll see in the next part of the video. So that's pretty much it on the BC Rich Conti. I strongly invite you to check out the story behind it. And now on to playing the guitar, showing it to you live in front of the camera, and plugging it into my tube amp. See you later. All right, so here we go. The BC Rich Conti as promised live. Let me take the tuner off. I've tuned it in E flat because it's got flat wounds on it, and flat wounds have a much higher strength, a much higher tension, and need more strength, and my hands are not that big, so I prefer having it in E flat. Plus I'm a sax player, so it's easier for me to lay down tracks on top of which I can play. So the headstock, NJ Series, BC Rich, gold hardware, ebony bridge, big fat R tailpiece, black, almost black. It's not quite, it's really hard to picture or to see through the webcam, but it's not completely black. There's a little bit of brown through it. Now let me unhook it so I can show you the back of it. Let me turn it off too. All right, here we go. So here's the joint I'm talking about. So here you can see my hands moving in kind of a crescent fashion. So, which is really, against my t-shirt, you can really see it. So it's really slick. It's probably the only jazz box I've seen with a heel shape like that. And the luthier who maintained it, I was referring to it in the first part of the video, said that he hadn't seen anything like that, at least not in that price range. Not on the, unless you're having a guitar made by Greenfield or somebody like that. Figuring on the back of it. Pickups, like I said, they're original as far as I can tell. And no name, no markings on the back of it. No logos inside the F-holes at all. A little bit of wires. Same with the other one, there's nothing. Hard to show. So it's really hard to date apart from the Conti. And like I said, I've removed the pick guard. It's emanating gases that corrode everything else it touches. So it's in a Ziploc bag somewhere. Well, so the BC Rich County, how does it sound? Well, it's got flat wounds, so it should be a little bit darker than a typical strings. But on a jazz box like this, you would tend to prefer flat wounds anyway. The bridge is not pinned in or glued in. It's a floating bridge in the sense that if you remove all the strings, it's going to fall off. So you have to be careful about that. Sometimes in older jazz boxes like Barney Kessel's, Lopez's, they would tend to pin the bridge down with a couple of screws or nails or even some glue. This one has not suffered such a modification. Now on to the testing. I've put the bridge, the pickup heights at about this place. Not completely sure if it's the optimal place to put it, if I have to lower them or raise them, but this is where it's at right now. So neck pickup, selector on top, just like a Les Paul. So I'm going through my Peters amp and the torpedo on clean channel. I'm not going to do a full metal channel of this guitar. It's kind of pointless. So the neck channel can be really bass heavy, but it's a neck channel with flat wounds. So now my normal setup on my Peters is to have everything at noon, except for the master, which is cranked, and the gain, which is at 3 out of 10. So if I eliminate some bass and raise the highs a little bit. So turn on the lows, raise the highs. Not the easiest thing to do, even with a heel access. Paul Gilbert could do this a lot better than I can. Plus, he's got extra long fingers. But considering my hands are pretty small, I'm all the way on the heel, and I still have some room to grow. So technically I would start to stretch right about here. So for the number of frets in the position I'm at, if I was blessed with Steve Vai hands or Paul Gilbert hands or Buckethead, then that'd be perfect. But considering that this was made in 81, 82, something like that, and they were trying to they were outsourcing to Japan to cut costs, and they came up with this heel is amazing, considering that you could buy a Gibson Howard Fusion that didn't have that and probably at the time cost like 4 times the price of this thing. revert to my normal everything at noon position on the amp. So master volume, master tone. Slightly dirty pots, original pots. So both pickups together. It sounds really good. It's got a little bit more presence than just the neck pickup, but it's not completely annoying or useless. And bridge pickup, which you don't see much use for in a jazz situation, but if you're planning to do other styles of music with this, check that everything's at full. They're not really overpowering powerful pickups, so I could probably gain by raising the bridge pickup a little bit, but I'm trying to not to create false harmonics and out of phasing issues. And like I said, it's a jazz box, so I'm mostly using this for its intended purpose with the neck pickup, or maybe in combination of the two of them. Same thing again, also has 2 chords. So if I just go through these frets, through pickups, all usable sounds, all really usable sounds. Now, since I'm on the bridge pickup, I'm going to stick to the clean channel, just raise the gain a little bit. And lower the master a little bit. So the fact that I raised the gain at noon, or almost at noon, a little bit past noon actually, seemed to help a lot the bridge pickup position. But I think it's going to be a little bit muddy once I get to the neck pickup. Which is the case. What about middle position? So gain higher, bridge pickup definitely. Back to my regular position. Whoops, stepping on my wire. So it's a little snappier and brighter. Probably would cut through the mix better in this position with the gain knob, but depending on what you want to do, what style you want to do with it. So, but for this, and while we're at it, finish this off, harmonics and sustain. Which is normal. There's nothing unusual there. So this is the BC Rich Conti. Really, really unusual guitar. Considering who made it, BC Rich. This would have been made by Hagstrom. That's actually the first company that comes to my mind in that period that would have done something like this. So considering BC Rich was known for hard rock or metal guitar players' dream, not many people know about these guitars. So if you have the chance to pick one up, or maybe pick this one up when I put it up for sale, don't know when, you should, because it's really unique. You could brag with other people that you have one and they don't. They supposedly made about 30 of the Brown Burst before the feud, and they changed the letters and the heel access and the bridge. So if there's only 30 of them and 4 of them went through one of those guys' websites, and I've got the other one here, which is probably the only one in Canada. Yeah, this probably, well, actually it's rarer than a 59 Burst. Will it be worth millions of dollars? Probably not, but that's how rare this thing is. So thank you for listening, and I'm looking forward to uploading some more stuff for you guys.